The 50s and 60s were a golden age of Western TV. Viewers were spoiled for choice between Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and other long-running favorites. The Rifleman was a fan favorite. The tale of a single father protecting his son in the Wild West charmed everyone. But what killed such a unique and powerful Western? It's complicated because no single factor is to blame. Keep watching to learn why The Rifleman was canceled after only 5 seasons. How it started. The Rifleman first aired September 30th, 1958. It had 168 episodes over 5 seasons. The final episode, Old Tony, was the 26th episode of the 5th season. The show was set in a New Mexico territory in the 1870s and 80s. It centered on Lucas McClain, a widowed rancher raising his son Mark. Arnold Levan created the show, but Sam Peckinpah provided the heart. He based many of the storylines on his childhood on a ranch and insisted on realism. The pilot was created to set up another hit Western, Gunsmoke. It was turned down and then tweaked into The Rifleman. It became a hit around the world. It was one of only a few American-based TV shows allowed to air in the Soviet Union. Former leader Leonid Brezhnev loved it and became friends with the lead actor when they met in 1973. How was it cast? Chuck Connors was an experienced baseball player and actor. He initially refused to play the lead in the series because of a low salary, but came back after getting a better offer. He was the only one of the actors to appear in all 168 episodes of the series. Part of what made Chuck's casting ideal was his chemistry with the actor who played his son Mark. Johnny Crawford was one of the original 24 Mouseketeers in the Mickey Mouse Club. He aged out at age 12 and went on to audition for other roles, eventually finding The Rifleman. Chuck had experience working with young actors since his work on 1957's Old Yeller. The pair hit it off. Johnny said he wasn't always a great influence on him, thanks to his practical joking, but did have a profound impact on his career. He taught him a lot about acting and how to deal with people. He even called him his hero. The other cast was also carefully chosen. Hope Summers played general store owner Hattie Denton. She'd later appear on several other TV shows like MASH, Little House on the Prairie, and The Andy Griffith Show. Bill Quinn played Mr. Sweeney the bartender. He began as a silent star in the 20s and had over 150 roles before ending his career as part of the 1989 film Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Patricia Blair played Lou Mallory. Her breakout role was Daniel Boone. She also had parts in other series such as Perry Mason and The Bob Cummins Show and films like The Electric Horseman. There were also over 500 celebrity guest stars on The Rifleman. That record is second only to The Simpsons, the show that seems to hold almost all records in television. They included Robert Vaughn, John and Richard Anderson, Duke Snyder, Don Drysdale, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dennis Hopper. The record for the most guest appearances goes to stuntman Archie Butler. How did it become popular? The first season was the 4th most popular on TV at the time. It had nearly 15 million viewers tuning in every episode, but that popularity could only last so long. Lucas McClain was a groundbreaking character for his time. He was one of the only single parents on TV, and a widower at that. He even earned number 32 on TV Guide's list of 50 greatest TV dads of all time. Chuck credits Sam's writing on his success. He created a realistic father-son relationship that viewers could relate to. Lucas's rifle also became an honorary fan favorite character. It was an 1892 44-40 Winchester, the same used in the 1939 John Wayne film Stagecoach. It did have a few modifications, such as a screw for rapid fire. The opening credits saw him shoot 12 shots in a row, with a 13th to match the music. The gun has an outstanding 99.9% accuracy rate, putting down 120 villains. Lucas can use it with either hand. He's an expert with it, but powerless without it, letting his ranch get raided in one episode when he can't reach it. The gun was popular, but not historically accurate. The model wasn't invented until 1892. The Rifleman was popular, but criticized for its violence. It was considered the second most violent show behind The Untouchables when it was released. Looking past the gunfights lets you see the lessons it was trying to teach, many of which were accompanied by biblical passages. One that seemed to travel throughout the series was the idea of forgiveness. It appears in the episode The Marshal, where Lucas gives a convict a second second chance to work on his ranch. The episode Sheridan's Story shows a general cover medical expenses of a soldier who shot his arm off. These themes resonated with audiences, even if they weren't fans of its violence. It also helped maintain the showrunner's insistence on realism, even if not everything was historically accurate. Why was The Rifleman cancelled? There is no single reason why The Rifleman was eventually cancelled. It was a combination of factors that all worked together to gradually turn it from one of the most popular to one that needed to end. One of the most common reasons for any show to face cancellations is dwindling ratings. The Rifleman wasn't immune to this issue, but one of the reasons it started to fail is different than most. The showrunners tried multiple times to give Lucas a love interest. Famous ladies such as Julie Adams, Patricia Blair, Ellen Corby, Catherine Bard, Amanda Ames, and Patricia Barr came to woo him. When Millie Scott came on as Joan Taylor, she was an immediate fan favorite. They liked her character, but not the way she was taking screen time away from the action and his relationship with his son. He broke up with her when ratings started to plummet. She wasn't the only reason the show had lowered in ratings. Dwindling interest came from other sources, but the showrunners weren't ready to give up. A sixth season was scheduled to be filmed. Paul, Johnny, and Patricia all signed on to keep going. The plan was to expand the show into hour-long color episodes inspired by Bonanza. They even wanted Lucas to finally settle down. The issue was that the most important name was missing, Chuck. He joined the 1963 legal drama Arrest and Trial instead. It was a flop, partially because no one could see him as anyone but Lucas, but it gave him a chance to explore new roles. Time also played a role. Johnny Crawford was getting too old to play a young, impressionable son. The Western genre was also growing oversaturated at the time. Patricia was hurt by the cancellation at first, but then found other lucrative projects. Johnny was ready to work on a new project for some time. He felt the scripts had been declining in quality since the first season. The cast agreed that it needed to end, and the showrunners eventually gave in. Will it ever return? A fan doesn't have to despair if a beloved show is canceled too early. They can always hope for a reboot, remake, or spin-off, even if that comes years later. And The Rifleman tried this more than once. Most spin-offs focus on a single character. The Rifleman had a plainsman played by Michael Ansara. He only showed up in a few episodes, but was meant to star in a series in 1959 called Law of the Plainsman. He wasn't enough to carry a full show, unfortunately, and it didn't get the same reception. In 2011, there were announced plans for a remake. Chris Columbus was on as executive producer, with Willie Nelson as Lucas and Jacob Tremblay as Mark. It was canceled a few months after being announced. There wasn't even a pilot episode to show for it. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of The Rifleman? Do you think it would still hold up today? Let us know in the comments section below.